Hi, everybody. Welcome to the community forum for the month of January 2026, starting off the year with a bang. And today we're going to talk about growth post recovery. And since biochemistry is my focus, even though I do believe in the three-legged stool, biochemistry, psychosocial elements, and spiritual elements. My focus is biochemistry. But let's remember that recovery itself is a process that occurs in stages. So just like addiction occurs in stages, early, middle, and late stage addiction with different characteristics, so we have early, middle, and I'll say ongoing recovery that also has specific characteristics. So actually, each stage of recovery has developmental tasks that need to be accomplished, just like a child growing up, from let's say 0 to 10 or even 0 to, adulthood, has specific developmental tasks that need to be accomplished so that they can move on to the next stage, the next developmental stage. We need to learn how to count before we can do algebra. Okay. So the
Yes.
first stage of recovery, the developmental tasks include learning how to say no. So refusal skills, learning to socialize, have fun, or play without your favorite substance involved, whether it be alcohol, THC, or sugar, or anything else. And overcoming post acute withdrawal, which are the mood swings, the depression, the anxiety, the insomnia, the aggressiveness, and the cravings that come immediately post acute withdrawal. And these, of course, are there because we still have depleted neurochemicals, neurotransmitters, and we usually are not eating very well and have unstable blood sugar. So the biochemical goal in early recovery is to stabilize blood sugar using the amino acid glutamine and bringing in the right amino acids to quickly rebuild the impaired neurotransmitter systems. And for that, we use our amino acid therapy chart to tell us where to start and what to do next. And then also learning how to eat our 5-star pro recovery diet so that you are fueling effectively all of your brain repair. And this is why I wrote my book, Eat, to give you guidance and support in doing just that. Once we have the basics stabilized and you're no longer getting triggered to use every 5 minutes, and you're being able to handle more stressful situations with calm and with ease, most of the time. The next step is to address more underlying issues. Now, biochemically, these underlying issues may be physical or maybe emotional, right? So, physical underlying issues that may not resolve within the first year of recovery are things like chronic pain, autoimmune disorders, dysregulated thyroid, dysregulated other hormones, Um, Lots of things that can not be okay. Our digestion may be out of whack. Um, and so even though we expected that getting away from our addictive behavior would fix everything, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't. And that's because there were things there um, before the addiction started that maybe have never been addressed and healed, and elements there perhaps caused by the addictive process and behavior and lifestyle itself that takes longer to heal. Trauma, for instance. So, if you do have ongoing dis-ease from any source, once you have solid sobriety in place, now is the time to address these things. And for some people, you actually have to address these things first in order to get solid sobriety in place, right? Things are not always linear. Working with a good functional nutritionist or one of my trained coaches can help you identify and address some of these underlying physiological causes. But a lot of us also have trauma, childhood trauma, adult trauma, trauma from our years of using. And this needs to be gently and lovingly and carefully addressed as well. They do say to not work on PTSD during the first year of sobriety so that you don't upset the apple cart and trigger yourself back to using again. And in fact, some of you may have found that doing step 4, if you're in one of the 12-step programs, step 4, which is a searching moral inventory, can actually often trigger so much shame and emotional distress that people relapse behind that. So you have to be very careful going into step 4. Make sure you're getting a lot of really good support, both from your sponsor, but also perhaps from a trained therapist or somebody else who can help you stay safe through this very important and invaluable, but sometimes dysregulating process. Now, of course, when we're going through the 4th step and we encounter a lot of shame or a lot of self-attack that we can't seem to overcome, this can be a sign of low serotonin. Some of the symptoms of low serotonin is a anxious, agitated depression, but a lot of negative self-talk, self-hatred, shame, beating yourself up, but also holding on to grudges, um, perfectionism, and being able or being unable to forgive. So in your process of doing step 4, you keep banging up against old resentments that you just can't seem to let go of, hatred of yourself or others, and maybe a vindictiveness or a unwillingness or an inability to let go and forgive, even though you may want to. And of course, let's remember forgiveness is an ongoing process. It's not a thing you do once and for all. Then you may need to support your serotonin system with 5-HTP and or tryptophan. And this is something that you can work with one of our coaches to address and accomplish. But once you are ready to start working on actual PTSD or trauma, this can be very dysregulating to the nervous system. If we have PTSD, we're often living in hyper arousal or sympathetic nervous system arousal. When we're on guard, we're tense, we're hyper vigilant, we're looking around us for where danger is going to come. We don't trust people. It's hard to let anybody in because we've been so hurt. Now, of course, some of this is emotional, and good trauma therapy using EMDR, inner child work, somatic psychotherapy, some of these other modalities is profoundly useful and healing. But so is resourcing and supporting the nervous system itself physiologically. So, how do we do this? Well, we do this in a number of different ways. Of course, good, healthy food and keeping our blood sugar very, very stable throughout the day is the primary foundational way of resourcing our nervous system. Because when blood sugar drops and adrenaline kicks in, we're completely dysregulated again. And if we add dysregulation to the adrenaline and dysregulation that is also there from living in PTSD, all hell can break loose. And we don't want that. So keep blood sugar stable. Get that 15 to 20 grams of protein in every 4 hours, and you'll notice a difference. Eat before going to your therapy session. Eat real food. It will be much more productive. Um, Likewise, by the way, eat high protein before going into a 12-step meeting so you're less likely to eat the donuts and the sugar that is ever present. The next thing you want to do is continue to support neurotransmitter function because when we're under a lot of stress, and PTSD and trauma work is actually stressful, it depletes all of our neurotransmitters, and it depletes all of our nutrients. We use them up in great big gobs. And so we want to make sure not just that we're eating properly, but that we're bringing in the right supplementation. We're maybe on a good multivitamin. We're getting that extra fish oil because most of us, or flaxseed oil if you're a vegan, because most of us do not get enough omega-3s in our diet, and they're absolutely crucial to our emotional and physical functioning. So we need the multivitamin, we need the fish oil, and then we may need targeted amino acids if we're still having specific symptoms of low neurotransmitters or that kind of increase as we jump into our trauma work. We can use, again, 5-HTP or tryptophan to stop obsessive thinking and worry, and sometimes maybe even intrusive thoughts. We can use GABA or theanine to relax our physical body. Some of us have no idea how to relax because we've never ever done it before. We've never felt safe enough to relax before. So we're kind of going around like this. Okay. So using GABA, using calming herbal teas, using magnesium can allow us to begin to physically relax as we start feeling safer and safer in the world. And then we need to support our adrenals because when we've been under intense stress for a long period of time, and some of us have been under intense stress from the day we were born, unfortunately, and maybe even before that, our adrenals, which help us regulate stress and get up every morning and keep going, can get very dysregulated. It can either be pumping out way too much cortisol or not enough, right? And so working with somebody to help you understand how your adrenals are functioning and what type of support they need is crucial But here again, learning how to breathe, doing breathing exercises, relaxation exercises, supporting sleep. There's many different ways to support sleep. I'll come back around to that in a minute. Is also crucial. Now, we want the adrenals are made up out of cholesterol. Cholesterol is the single precursor to all of our adrenal hormones and therefore all of our reproductive hormones. And cholesterol is so important that every cell makes it. Some people whose cholesterol gets low, total cholesterol below 170, the more you go below 170 for cholesterol, the more likely you are to have mood and even behavior dysregulation. It can lead to opioid relapse, and it can even lead to suicidal depression. So please make sure that your cholesterol is not too low. So many things depend upon it, including your adrenal health and reproductive health for that matter. For cholesterol to be created and function optimally, we need enough vitamin C and we need enough pantothenic acid or vitamin B5. So sometimes we can take 500 milligrams of B5 3 times a day to really help repair adrenal function. And up to 3 grams or even more if you need it of vitamin C can help as well. But then we have all of your adaptogenic herbs, herbs such as ginseng, eleuthero, which is called Siberian ginseng, ashwagandha, rhodiola, holy basil. So we've got calming adrenal herbs that help dampen cortisol. And then we have energizing adrenal herbs that help promote cortisol function, especially in the morning when we need it to get up and go. And then we have balancing ones. So again, working with an herbalist or a trained functional nutritionist to help you get on the right adrenal support. That leads us to sleep, because when our adrenals are dysregulated, sleep is often dysregulated. And lots of different addictive disorders, as well as mental health disorders, have disturbed sleep as one of the symptoms. But one size does not fit all, right? There's lots of different reasons for delayed sleep onset, trouble getting to sleep, as well as lots of different reasons for disturbed sleep or waking up all the time or being very restless. So I actually have a sleep assessment tool that looks at all the different causes of poor sleep and will help you identify which one is your issue and what to do about it. So this is available for $25 in our store, or you can just email us at info@addictionnutritionacademy.com to get a copy of that assessment tool. Symptoms. So if you have trouble getting to sleep because you have tight, tense muscles and you're relaxed, or you can't physically relax into sleep, that's a sign of low GABA and maybe low magnesium. So drinking high mineral teas like Havena sativa, chamomile hops, along with GABA support will be profoundly helpful there. Sometimes we can't get to sleep because we're worried. Round and round and round and round. That's a sign of low serotonin. And taking tryptophan before bed. And if if tryptophan doesn't work for you, some 5-HTP will be very, very helpful in calming down your thinking. Sometimes we get a burst of energy, a second wind at bedtime. We have a really hard time getting up in the morning, but we're way too awake at bedtime. That's actually a sign of adrenal downregulation and moving towards what we call in the vernacular adrenal fatigue. Um, so bringing in things again to regulate adrenal function and bring down cortisol at bedtime is crucial. So we can do something like phosphatidylserine or phosphorylated serine in the form of Cerephos, which you can buy from our vitamin store. You can get all these supplements, by the way, from our vitamin store at www.aminoacidtherapy.com in the Get Help section where our store is. But yes, so we can lower cortisol using ashwagandha, holy basil. These are adaptogenic herbs. Using theanine. Theanine is wonderful at a couple of 100 milligrams before bed to lower that cortisol and allow us to sleep. Sometimes we will have trouble sleeping because blood sugar is low. Either we've gone too long between dinner and bedtime, or we wake up in the middle of the night just wide awake and we need a good healthy snack before bed to go to sleep. So these are all things that are very helpful in supporting your ongoing recovery journey. And I wish you all well. Thank you.